Well, good evening and welcome, friends, to the Mel Sanders and Friends show. Today is August the 19th, 2019, and we're glad to be here with you this evening. And I have with me in the studio Mr. Cato, my buddy, that longtime friend. We've worked together over the years on the radio. And we'll have Miss Paula Massey, who was with us last time. She'll be joining us shortly. But today we have a special guest. We had a little problem last time we were on, and we wanted to hear what you had to say with all of the controversy and talk about the vaccines and that kind of stuff, especially as it relates to the African American community. We wanted somebody that knew more than Cato and myself. So he reached out to your niece, is that what it was? Mm-hmm. And she reached out to her friend or coworker. I don't know what that is, but at this point, Mr. Cato, you want to take it and introduce our guest or have her introduce herself?
Well, so I don't mess up the name, I'm going to have her introduce herself and what she does, who she works for, and just give us all the pertinent information, and then we'll start from there. So, go right ahead.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for inviting me and having me here. My name is Serenity White Ilole. I currently work as a resource specialist too with the African American Coalition. African American Coalition is under Fresno County's COVID Equity Project. We've conducted testing, contact tracing. We currently do vaccinations and are expanding again to testing.
So is this a part of the county, Fresno County Health Department?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
We are fiscally under Fresno EOC, though.
Oh, okay, good.
If that makes sense.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Cato.
Well, now,
don't be afraid to ask the question. You talk real good when we were on the.
I can't help it. I'm a shy guy. Okay. Now you said that as far as your job has something to do with the African American Coalition. Did I hear that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
So what now? But is that's working within the African American Museum not museum. It's coalition as far as just researches of what's going on, or is that actually hands-on out there trying to make sure that everybody's getting vaccinated in the African American community, or how does that really work?
I wouldn't say our goal is more so to get accurate and timely COVID information or COVID related information to the African American community within Fresno. And that goes hand in hand with canvassing. We regularly have people on our team go out and give COVID information, like more up-to-date information out to specifically the 93706 zip code here in Fresno. More so information as well as conducting the testing and vaccinations.
So is there a team? Is there a team of folks that do that? Or are you part of a team?
Yes.
What's the size of the team?
Currently, we're actually small. Currently, I would say about less than 30. There's less than 30 of us right now.
Well, that's a pretty big team. I don't know how small it is, but to me that seems to be a big team because we're only 6-7% of the African American community of Fresno County. What are our numbers looking like?
Are you talking vaccination numbers or population?
Just population.
Oh, I would definitely say about that amount. Yeah. With these last census numbers.
And so, what kind of response do you get say if you're out on the west side of Fresno? What kind of response or pushback do you get from folks who you approach about being vaccinated or have they been vaccinated and that kind of thing? Are you getting a lot of resistance?
I would say some resistance. Most is misinformation or
such as
or like misinformation such as there's a lot of popular ones out there.
The Tuskegee Project.
Yeah. Yeah. But then not even knowing like the Tuskegee experiment was doctors withholding
right
that like medical devices, you know. that would make them better. But just like that, they're inserting a microchip, you know, things like that. It's going to mutate you. It mutates your DNA. And our goal is just to get the information to them in a way that makes sense. Because a lot of times, yeah, you can hold medical town halls and things, but if people don't know the medical jargon that you're talking about, it's not going to register.
Are there a lot of folks who believe that chips are being placed in them?
I don't think it's the chips anymore. I think people have moved on to a more, what's the next big one? Definitely the gonna grow a third arm, third leg,
wow,
something like that.
But is there sincere belief that there is something that that it's not positive for them in the vaccine itself, or are they just regurgitating what they've heard from other folks that, you know, because there are some people that I think are sincerely disbelieving that this is, you know, a good thing for them.
Yeah, we have some people who just don't believe that COVID is real at all, despite record numbers of, you know, we're back to no ICU beds in some areas of the U.S. We're back to people dying at higher rates currently due to, you know, the mutated virus. But, restate your question, please.
But let me ask you this. How the mutation factor in this? We had a discussion about this last time when you weren't here to be our expert. So here are two amateurs trying to be experts about this. But the mutation of this virus, how does it happen, and why is it important for folks to get vaccinated? Because one of the things that I've been hearing is that when you're vaccinated, you could get COVID, but it won't affect you as bad. But you still can spread it to someone who doesn't have it.
Correct. Which is very unfortunate. I would like to state I am not a medical professional.
Okay.
I am not a medical professional. I just happen to work the numbers, and I'm the IT lead for the African American Coalition, managing our systems and such. So again, I'm not a nurse. I'm not a
but you do have the numbers and the statistics.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, we can work with that.
Just from, I don't know, just looking at things, proper sources, I do like to reference the CDC and WHO. I do like to follow WHO personally more than the CDC on guidances and, how should I say, like the most up-to-date information.
Now you have to remember that you're talking to an audience that may not understand who is, other than, and I'll throw it out there, is World Health Organization.
Yes.
And then the CDC, which everybody's probably has heard of. So just wanted to clarify that those are two separate entities that give out information, and so when you were just throwing out the letters to some people,
yeah, my apologies,
No,
but that goes
okay.
hand in hand in what we do.
Yeah,
I'm glad you pointed that out, because again, some people might not know that the CDC is, you know, short for Centers for Disease Control.
right?
And again, the WHO is the World Health Organization.
Now, what is the most glaring thing that your stats are showing you, or your organization? I mean, what's the number one thing that you have to fight? I mean, because you've thrown out a couple of things that are going through the community that people feel the reason why they shouldn't get vaccinated. But on your end, what is it that you see is the number one reason why people do not want to get vaccinated, or that you have to counter? Not that it can't be dismissed, But what is the number one thing that you find?
Um, I think it's just the easily believable myths. Um, I'm not even sure. Because a lot of times people are just like, no, I'm not gonna get that. Like, you're gonna give me COVID. Like, you're gonna how should I say? They're gonna turn me into a zombie, or I'm gonna grow a third eye, or I won't be able to have kids. That's another popular one. It's gonna make me infertile.
Well, the vaccines themselves, which have the best potency, if that's an appropriate term for the vaccine?
Okay. The term I believe would be efficacy. Like efficiency, efficacy.
Right.
I believe right now it is Pfizer. If you are fully vaccinated with Pfizer, I believe with the Delta variant being a thing, the efficacy went from 94 to 96%. That's just me not knowing the exact number, but it was mid 90s down to mid 80s. I would like to note that Moderna and Pfizer were just approved for booster shots as well, which is lovely. But Pfizer definitely has the highest efficacy.
Well, it seems that maybe I got. Well, I won't only say that because I took the J&J. I don't like needles, so I said let the one time do it. So I took the J&J.
But at least you got it. At least you have some. Your immune system has seen some of how the virus works, so it's able to, if you were to be infected, it would try its best.
Yeah, well, that a lot of folks I think are like me when it comes to that part about the needles, and it was just let me get the quickest and the one time one out of the way, because I felt like there was going to have to be another one later. I didn't think that this one was going to do it because, I look at the virus like I look at taking antibiotics. If you don't take everything that the doctor prescribes to you, and then you stop and then you try to start again, then you may have to have something stronger because that virus or whatever you had mutated to something else. So I look at that as being part of what we're looking at with the Delta virus. If you don't get vaccinated, you stand a chance of having to fight something else because everybody around you didn't get it. And that was one of the debates we had last time about whether or not it would give you that kind of protection to keep you from suffering as much if you did get a second, or even not even a second, but get the virus.
Yeah, and the way you just described it is exactly the way that I understand it works as well. But from my understanding as well, it's like even though you did get J&J, and understanding J&J has the least amount of efficacy. But like you said, people are scared of needles. At least you would have some protection against the virus. And would still be less susceptible to being hospitalized or, intubated due to COVID.
Now, this coalition that you have, that's actually in 93706, how long is that going to be in effect? Is that going to be as long as there's going to be COVID, or is it going to shut down after a certain amount of time?
Well, I can't answer that for surely. We were honestly only projected at the start. We got our funding August 2020, and we were originally only projected to last out through the end of 2020, and we're thankful to still be given funding through the end of the year, I believe right now. We're unsure the end of the year what will happen at that point. But right now, I know our focus is bringing testing back, continuing administering vaccines. You can find us in My Turn, titled African American Coalition. We're down off of Fulton Street.
In the downtown area?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Say again?
maybe one last thing before we let you go. We didn't want to keep you all night, but the African American community is actually lagging behind. Is that safe to say? Is lagging behind in all other ethnicities that are out there? Aren't we kind of lagging behind everybody else as far as getting the vaccination?
Our numbers are definitely lower than other racial groups. Yes.
So if we're behind, it seems like we would be, or your coalition would be around for a while, since we're playing catch up.
Yeah. It seems that way. We are working to expand and try to do more. It's just a matter of getting the work done, you know.
Right.
So do you folks have a website or something that folks can go and look at if they want further information?
Absolutely. You can visit us at africanamericancoalition.org. We're also on Instagram at Fresno AAC. But yeah, africanamericancoalition.org would be your best bet. If you are looking to make a vaccination appointment with us, you can find us in My Turn. If there was any other information or questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and speaking with us and giving us this information. And hopefully, maybe in the future, we can come back and revisit.
And maybe you have some good news for us.
Right.
All of a sudden, we woke up and everybody was taking the shot, and nobody's unsafe anymore.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Serenity. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Be safe.
Well, I guess, were we both wrong for the last program, or just
No,
you?
you were wrong. You
Oh.
were wrong. I'm never wrong.
No, I think
when I'm
you were
around
wrong
you.
because you said that if you get the shot, there's no guarantee.
Well, there is.
And,
Wait. No, I know that's what I said. That if you because that was on the, and I can't actually say what site it was on. It wasn't a somebody's fifth party site. This was a #1 site. And matter of fact,
you happen to write it down, huh?
See,
Okay.
I know you. Like you said, we've been working together for a long. Well, not just working on the radio. We've known each other since kids. So I knew what you was going to say. So, matter of fact, I was going to take a picture of it just to make sure that what I was going to say I could back up, knowing you. So, what it said, this was the CDC.gov.
Okay, CDC. Okay, Center for Disease Control.
Yes,
all right.
Yes, their site. What this said. Now, this is not what I read before. Before, it definitely stated that does not prevent you from getting the coronavirus. That wasn't the Delta virus what we're dealing with now. That was early on. So
COVID-19.
Yes, it urged you to get it, but it also told you that it could not prevent you from getting it. That it would only lessen the severity of your symptoms that you had to deal with as a result of getting COVID. Now what it says is the vaccine cannot give you COVID-19. They will help keep you from getting COVID-19. Wait a minute. Back up, because I know you didn't hear it.
I heard you.
They're talking about the vaccines. They're talking about all of them.
Yeah, they will not give you the disease.
They cannot, well, maybe I miswrote it, but it said they cannot give you COVID-19. they will help keep you from getting COVID. Help.
Okay.
It didn't say that
it wasn't
that you
definite.
would.
Okay.
No,
that's the
it
word
will
you were
help.
looking for.
It will help keep you. So that was, and that falls kind of line with some of the stuff most of the stuff that I read online, and that was from the CDC. I didn't get anything from the World Health Organization, but everything that I was seeing was in fact telling you that it would keep you from getting it. Everybody else but CDC, when you saw it online. So here they're telling you one thing, but they're omitting something that's very, very crucial, is that the vaccine doesn't guarantee that you won't get it.
Okay.
It just makes it you're not as sick. Well, my problem is if that's the case, then they're lying to you. That's my only problem. Not that they're not doing good by telling you go get the vaccine. And I'm not telling anybody not to get the vaccine. I'm just saying that the way they're presenting it is not totally truthful. That's my problem.
All right. Well, we could debate this for another 15
No, we
years,
can't,
and you still would be wrong.
Because Cato's never wrong.
But we do have
especially when you're around.
Joining us right now is our fellow co-host, Miss Paula Massey from South Valley. Welcome to the program, Miss Massey. And
welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just having a conversation. I think you heard some of that with the previous guest we had. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and maybe is there something in particular you wanted to talk about related to South Valley?
Well,
okay, good. All right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I don't really have a whole lot tonight to talk about South Valley. You know, it is what it is. It's going to be what it is until people step up to the plate, attend meetings, raise sand, do whatever, you know. One person can't do everything.
Well, it's that way all over. I mean, especially in the black community. We're very apathetic. We don't, we're unless somebody's stepping directly on your toe right now, you will say, well, that's the other guy. Let him worry about it. But one of the things I want to talk about is how do we change that mode and get people to being more proactive than reactive. And I say that because a few years ago when we were going through that process of losing the West Fresno School District to the state of California, well, from the County Office of Education, then to the state of California, folks were not, they couldn't see the bigger picture of what was going on and why it was happening. And to this day, I don't think a lot of folks really understand other than and they really didn't understand then, but they heard a lot about what was in the media. And I can remember hearing from folks in San Diego who were saying it was in their newspapers, and the Bay Area, it was in their newspapers, about a little school district, less than 1,000 students in the central San Joaquin Valley, and all of the turmoil that was going on. And we find out that after several years of going through the same kind of thing, what they said it was not what it was. The whole intent from the beginning was to eliminate that district and merge it to another district, whereby eliminating African American leadership, board leadership, and turning it to a situation where there was basically an all-white board that would be running that part of the district. And so when we tried to share that with people back then, our community had been beat up so much that and tricked too, because we had a lot of folks who represented us and, so supposed to be representing us, and wound up doing things that cost the trust and the loyalty of the community, because when they tried to stand with some folks who came out and said, I really need you folks to stand with me because I've been mistreated, and we need to stand together, when the facts finally came out, it wasn't as good as folks, it wasn't as good as the people that were trying to get the support said it was. And so it made it very difficult. It's kind of like the story about the boy who cried wolf. And, nobody believed him after a while. And then when the wolf really came, he was left to the wolves because nobody believed him.
Late.
And I think that's kind of where we were a few years ago with West Fresno, because we identified what the objective of the county was and the outcome that was going to happen. We shared with people, this is what's getting ready to happen. But at the end of the day, and you had a county office of education that was a master at communication and controlling the dollars, because one of the things they did to kind of make sure our voices were muted was to make sure that the people that we hired, whether it be attorneys or people that were consultants to help communicate what the issues were in the district, they wouldn't pay them. And the only people that have the authority to pay would have been the county office of education, because they oversee all education dollars. Anything you spent in the education arena, the county office of education has to sign off on it. And when that happened, we were just, our hands were tied. And so whatever was said about us, we had kind of had to just, hope and pray that people wouldn't believe them. But, at the end of the day, when you're a master of communications and you have the dollars behind you, the system said, we're going to take you down. I remember one instance, we were in the courtroom, and one of the county administrators was in a courtroom next door for some reason or other, and I saw him, and I went over, and I wanted to talk to him or the county superintendent, and the gentleman came out with me, and he said, I said, listen, this is right after the Gray Davis had denied the first takeover, and I said, look, we need to come together, and let's, a lot of injuries and a lot of lost time, and kids are suffering behind this. We need to come together, and let's see if we can't work something out. And he says, oh, no, we're going to take you down. We're going to take you guys down. Says, we just didn't know that the state superintendent of the school had such a bad relationship with the governor. So we're going to come back and do it again. Because shortly after
I have a question, Mr. Sanders,
Sure.
on that. What was the reason that they gave for wanting to take down that school district?
They said the district was broke and couldn't function. That was the primary reason. Said there in takeovers, there's only about 3 areas in the Ed Code that allows for school districts to be taken over.
Right, that's right.
And so what they used was the financial aspect of it. Although none of that panned out to be true, but when you know how to play the game, I'll give you for instance, we didn't have a business manager, so we had to go out and hire one, and everybody we went to talk to had been given. Oh no, we can't do that. We can't do that. The county office won't allow us to do that. Well, we finally found one that agreed that he would take our school district and be our business manager. Well, what he did was he was co-opted by the county office of education, and in order for you to be taken over, you have to be. There's a certain money amount. I forget exactly what it was, but of our small district, if you had over $650,000 in your reserve, you couldn't be taken over by the state. You could be assisted by the state, but you couldn't be taken over by them. And our business manager that we hired did something that was very unusual. He went in, and most districts owe money, to different vendors, and they have a time to pay them. And so what he did was, rather than wait till the time to pay him was due, he simply went and paid everybody off in full, which meant that our money in our accounts was gone, because when you look at it, there was nothing there. But it had no board approval. The board did not authorize that. But because he worked for the district and he was in cahoots with the county after we had hired him, they depleted our account. But here's the really funny thing about it. One of the vendors, I don't know if folks remember this, it was a program called E-Rate, which came in all of these school districts, and they did a lot of improvement of the fiber optics and things like that to get schools ready for the modern technology. Well, the company that was hired, before we got there, the company that was hired, they had a contract from the federal government of about $6 million. And of that $6 million, the school district was supposed to pay 10% of that. And at the end of after they completed their work, the gentleman forced the money out of our district account without our approval as a board, paid the vendor, and you know what the vendor did? He donated his portion back to the district. And when he did that, that took us out of the realm of being taken over by the state. So the county office simply would not put that money back in our accounts to make sure that we could not meet that standard of having enough not to be taken over by the state. So those are the kind of things that I think a lot of folks, I know a lot of folks don't know, but it's good to know because it can be repeated, and it will be repeated again in the years to come when they want to take down a minority school district. And there was only like 5 of us in the state, and every one of those districts that had African American board leadership wound up being in receivership. Really strange. Out of the 1,000 and plus school districts in the state of California, only the ones that had African American majority boards were the ones that were put into receivership. Others, they were done for reasons of, whatever their reasons were. But I know ours was done specifically to eliminate our district and then to force us into another district. So, take it back. It was also in Sacramento. The Grant School District.
Sacramento just went through something in 2019.
Yes, same thing. Went to
that, and it's you said a whole lot. I don't even need to say anything more. But can you just imagine that if the community, those students and those parents that knew the fullness of what was actually getting ready to take place and what was actually happening behind closed doors, what could have happened? Because I remember watching this movie. It says "Won't Back Down," and I can't think of the name of the lady, Viola Davis.
Mm-hmm.
She played in that movie, and she was a teacher. And the parents wanted her to help them take over the school. And eventually, they had to go against the school district and against union and all kind of stuff. And they eventually took over the school.
Mm-hmm.
Because the kids wouldn't learn. So like you said, there's 3 different ways that they could come at you. One, the schools are not financially fit. They owe all this money, and they're not able to do what they need to do for the students. And then poor test scores.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had my radio show, the most of the things that I heard was poor test scores.
Mm-hmm.
That where the district or state would come in, and we know that when they come in and take over schools, a lot of fanfare. They want everybody to know we get ready to do this to this school. They give them some time, and most of the times the schools know that they're getting ready to be taken over, but they have a time limit to get everything in order. So just in my research is finding that even though the state comes in and what they're going to do is they come in there structurally and do things with the school structurally, but they don't even think about the students. They don't think about what's going to happen to the students or what's going to happen to the parents. And what they do is they go in and when they take over, that school board is no more existent. They get rid of all the school board.
Yeah.
Everybody in that school board is like, you're out. Go.
Yeah, they have no further oversight. It's all given to an administrator that's placed in that district, and they do that.
Right,
but to your point about not caring about the kids, in our situation, during the height of all of the things that were going on, our district had the second best test score improvement in all of Fresno County. In the height of all the controversy, that meant nothing to them. They were on a mission to get rid of this district, and that's what they did. Because they don't care. You're right. They don't care about the kids. They don't care about the community or the neighborhood. They have an objective, and they're going to figure out how to. But there was a lot of money made on those takeovers, though. You bring in all of the education support groups that are supposed to come and help you get your academic piece back in place and your financial piece back. All of them charge the state money for that. And they would come in there and they would say, okay, we're going to help you. We're going to give you a loan. Mm-hmm. And with that loan come interest payments. So, and what I really like with Sacramento City Unified Schools, they gave them like 10 years. It took about 10 years for them or more. They said it will take 10 years or more for them to recover. Mm-hmm.
And the people that they're putting oversight of these schools, the administrators to take over these schools and oversight, they don't even know how to take care of what they need to take care of, what's actually happening with the schools. So somebody mentioned in one of the articles that I was reading, it's like the blind leading the blind. Mm-hmm. Because, they themselves, they don't know. Yeah. And if they knew, if there was, okay, so you got these reasons. I can't remember what the third was. I know bad test scores. I know uh, school districts that are not functioning financially. What is the other third one? I'm trying to.
I can't think of it off the top, but
I should have highlighted it
to
what I
your
was because I have
point,
my papers here in front of me. I didn't highlight it. But anyway, it says they cut off a lot of stuff. And a lot of times what these schools are doing when they know that they're getting ready to uh, go through a takeover, if they don't get certain things done, they start cutting costs. They start cutting programs and things that the kids actually need. So now our children are actually suffering, and they're even suffering more when the administrator comes in because they're cutting more stuff.
let me speak to also that piece about the loan. They forced a loan on the district of, I forget what it was. It was a million something. At the time that they forced the loan, the district had a bond that they had passed a few years earlier, and they had over $1 million left on the bond. If there was a real financial problem, they would have allowed the school, they should have allowed the district to go back to the community and say, we want to redirect the balance of what you've already got out there to pay off the state so we can be in charge of our own business. What I found out was that once they made the loan was immediately sold. I didn't know that they would. I thought the loan was the note was held by the state. It wasn't. It was sold to an individual on the basis that there was no taxes to be paid, be charged to them for loaning the state the money to give to the school district. So it's a big racket, and everybody made money, but the district suffered and the community suffered because they didn't know. And had we known earlier, we could have went to our voters and said, hey, listen, the state is saying we're broke. We know we're not, but to get them out of our business, we want to redirect the balance of our bond that we pass, which is over $1 million, to get them out of our business, and they will be all the way out. We'll be in control of our own destiny. But when I found out that they had sold the bond, and the other sad side of that was the day that we went to Sacramento to talk to the state senate and talk to the legislators about why we didn't think we needed a loan and that the state shouldn't take over. Two of the people who are part of a crisis management team for school districts came to the floor and said, if you folks do not make them the loan right now, they may not make next month's payroll. This is in March. Do you know when they made the loan to the state? I mean, to the school district? December. So how were these people paid if the district was broke? It was all set up to look like the district was broke when it never was. They took the loan just to justify them doing what they did. And I suspect this. I don't even think they loaned the district the money. I think they there was some backroom shenanigans that went on that just said, okay, we'll do it on paper, but we got enough money to make payroll and do what we need to do for the rest of this school year. So it's just interesting, and I'm just giving you the tip of it, of what happened, not the real details of it, but for those folks who would like to know, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and just show you the documentation that we kept for all those years of. We did a chronology of each day from the time the county stepped in till the time that the state took over. And we told you every day what happened, who did what, when, and that kind of thing. And I don't think a lot of folks did that, but we had a team of folks who wanted to make sure that history reflected exactly what happened to the school district. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring that up and talk about that a bit and get this on the record because these things live forever. I didn't know. You go to YouTube, you'll find this.
It's really bad. I'm sorry.
Well, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who you saying? Go ahead, too.
Cato had a question.
Going back then, and the county stepped in to take over the West Fresno School District, and to get rid of the board, which was an all-black board.
Right.
But what was the end game that is even resulting in as of today? Because it was more than just taking over the board. They had gains in mind for down the road that they had to get rid of the board and take over the school in order for the bigger picture, which was Washington Union School District.
Which, I'm glad you asked, led to the reason that it was so important for them to take the district is because all of the major development in Southwest Fresno, the majority of it was going to be in the West Fresno School District, which meant that our tax base was going to grow, we're going to have more revenue, and we wouldn't have had to share that with the high school. We would have got the bigger portion of that because they have what they call developer fees, where there's a percentage split between the high school district and the elementary school district. We were the elementary school district, and the elementary school district's got a bigger portion of developer fees than the high school. So they wanted to control all of the money. So what they did is, let's eliminate this board, let's merge these districts, and the Washington Union High School
will own it all.
Yeah, they'll have all of it. So that was the game plan. That was what it was about. And we were, sometimes you can be too close to the trees to see the forest. We knew it was something, but as time passes now, we look back and we know that was the end game all along. So we didn't care about kids not being educated. I mean, in West Fresno, they had test scores for years that was below the state average. But all of a sudden in the last, over the last 10 years or so, that was a major concern, and we have to get rid of this board and take this district and merge it to a high school, which, by the way, didn't have test scores much better than the elementary school board. But if you say something long enough, you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, somebody's going to believe you, especially if you got the money to back it up. And the county office of education had the money to back it up.
But even they had to have a tie-in with Washington School District, because I'm thinking ahead of myself. The county had a. I guess where I'm getting ahead of myself, because you have to look at the county had to have a gain, otherwise they wouldn't have fooled with Washington School District. They had to have, I guess, they had to have, I guess the easy way, they had to have a reason, but that's not the word I'm looking for. I'm looking for a devious reason. in order for them to take on, to remove this school district, because you got to remember, this is along with, it was a black board, but it still was a small school district, and the county has other small school districts and other small school districts who were having failures in the classroom as far as test scores. So this was not just based off of the students not learning, because other school districts in the county were facing the same situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they targeted this district for more than one reason, is what you're getting.
More than the basic reason of let's do it for the kids, especially when the county got in. But the county got in and they were working with West Fresno School. I mean, the Washington High School District. So that was the tie-in. It wasn't county just going after West Fresno. They were going in after West Fresno with and say in cahoots of the Washington High School District.
Exactly. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, less than a mile from the campus of the West Fresno School District, a mile and a half at the max, there was another little school district called Orange Center School District.
That's what I'm speaking of.
And that school district, they accused the West Fresno School District and its trustees of misuse of funds, basically stealing money, is what they were saying. That you misuse money, you misuse your credit card, you did blah, blah, blah. Well, a school district less than a mile and a half from West Fresno, named Orange Center Elementary School District, actually had a business manager who was stealing them blind. He had created some accounts that produced invoices to companies that didn't exist. During the time that they were chasing us a mile and a half away, here's a guy that's stealing them blind. And when they finally realized what he was doing, he had been doing it for like 4 or 5 years. And when they realized what he's doing, yeah, they dropped the hammer on him. But you were spending all that time watching these guys, and here's a guy right around the corner. He's still in you blind. So they did have an agenda that had to do with more than just the best in the best interest of kids. It had a lot of financial ramifications to it too, and smaller districts that don't have the ability to defend themselves, you wind up taking it like that because the big guy always. The big fish always eat the little fish. You don't see the little fish eating big fish. And we were the small fish, so that's what happened to us. But one of the other disappointing things about it is we had talked to several people in Sacramento to try to get them to help us fend off these folks because we knew we were being treated unfairly. And I had the Dr. Buchanan, Floyd Buchanan, who was the former superintendent of the Clovis Unified System, and I had an opportunity to go up and talk to, who was not in Sacramento anymore, the great Willie Brown. And we figured he knew people in Sacramento, and if he heard our plight, he could make a couple of phone calls and get them to look at it differently. And he listened, and he did make a call or two. But at the end of the day, the results were the same. And so I kind of, I look at that and I'm disappointed to a degree because at the end of the rainbow was the merger, which was the big apple and him being the kind of politician that he was known to be, that should have been something that was obvious to him because he wasn't close to the fight. See, we were so close to it, we couldn't see it. We were thinking we want our district back and we're going to do a job for the kids. It wasn't about that. And we went to him and we went to some other folks who had insight and should have known that there should have been a different strategy, but we didn't get that. The strategy now, looking back at it, was to step back as a community, and insist on merging this district so that we're going to have the two join with this one. And we didn't do that. We kind of just played it by ear. And now we're looking at it. Had we done that, the numbers, when you form a new district, they have to have, as close as possible, a equal proportion of people in each one of those trustee areas. Well, the greatest population was on the north end of the high school district, which consisted of mostly black and brown people. So in order for those 7 new seats to be balanced, they had to take people from the north of the district and move them further south to balance them out, which meant that the majority of the votes were going to be now of that board going to the north where there are more people of color. But you would think that the folks who have been in politics for years and have, could have picked up the phone and called somebody and asked what was this about, they would have known that. And we would have been able to kind of step back, regroup, and been able to take over that big district. But because we didn't know.
I want to ask a question.
Yes.
Do you really think that if y'all had regrouped that you would have been able to do something? You mentioned something that you guys were the little people, and these other people they always do stuff to the little ones.
Uh-huh.
I remember when you said that, my mind went back to the fact that my son had a garter snake, and he wanted to keep the snake, so we had a terrarium. And I'm trying to figure out what to feed this snake. So I went to the pet store and they said crickets. So we got crickets. I said, how do we feed them? One at a time. He said, no, just put the whole tube in there. Now the snake was a nice sized garter snake, and we had a lot of little crickets. So the next day, I'm looking at the snake, and the snake is laid up on the rock. Like, okay, and these little crickets is riding around, walking around him and stuff, hopping over him. I'm like, okay, he must be full. And the next day, he's still there. And I said, Teddy, what's going on with the snake? So he touched it, and when he rolled that snake over, those crickets had eaten that snake up. I said that to say this. I don't think that just getting those people who know stuff, those people who are in offices and stuff like that, I don't think that just getting them on board with you is going to do anything. It's the community. I think that if you get people in your community and they know what's going on, you're educating them. Even with what happened with West Fresno School District, that happened years ago. But if you bring that stuff around right now and bring up to date some things that are happening in other school districts and get them fired up, they're going to be looking, and they're going to say, we can't let this happen again, because it is going to happen again. And it is happening. It's happening all over the United States with a lot of these schools, and they'll go after the small school districts.
I agree with you.
And the one thing about it is that when I was talking to you about the money, the state loans and charges an interest rate on the borrowed money. So now the school districts have to make cuts to pay the bills, and the district would need to make even more cuts to pay back the state loan with interest. So there's no money available for the children. And then once again, because this is from 2019, when the administrator comes in, after they get rid of the board, now you have another administrator come in, and now there's no local control. The local control is lost.
Right.
So so whatever that local control is, whatever the parents are doing, the parents need to know that. And I think that right now, I can't say so much as my community, my group of people my age are going to do anything, or even those that are little, but these younger people, I don't know, the generation X, Y, Z, I don't know what they call them now, but I think they have a different mindset, and they're out there movers and shakers. When
Paula?
they know what has happened, they're more apt to move forward.
Paula,
So,
we're going to have to cut it short because we are out of time. we enjoyed this conversation, and we're going to have to pick this up again. But, folks, we hope you've enjoyed the program. I hope I didn't give you too much to chew on, but we'll revisit this again. We're not going to just do it right away, but we're going to come back again because I think what she said was very important. We need to share this information with folks because this will happen again, and it is happening again. I didn't know about the one in 2019, but I know it's very capable of happening. So, folks, we hope you've enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. So you enjoy the rest of the evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Night.